So America Walks supports local advocacy, and we try to be a voice for walkable communities and, at a national level. But this presentation, well, let me see, not moving yet. This presentation is actually drawn from my experience as mayor of Seattle from 2009 to 2013. And this one comes more from an advocacy perspective than the wonderful design perspective we've been seeing from the prior folks. And basically, 2009 was the recession, the Great Recession, as it's been called. And when I came in, the city was dealing with the financial impacts. There was almost 10% unemployment. Businesses big and small had closed. The city budget was in shambles. The rainy day fund was spent down. And I had to make $60 million in cuts from the existing budget. And with that level of unemployment, the public really was demanding relief as well. There were a lot of people that were hurting from this. Now, this COVID recession differs in some respects from that recession. We're doing better in terms of the federal money that's coming into the system. Maybe sales taxes haven't dropped quite as much, but I got to tell you, city balance sheets were never great to begin with, and they're going to be challenged now, and there's still a lot of people hurting. In fact, as we know, the damage is really hardest on lower wage workers. There's an 8% reduction in unemployment. And so there's going to be a lot of things that governments are going to be called upon to do to support people in need. But there's a lot of things that, attendees at the Walk Bike Places conference believe in, and we argue for it on the basis of public health, quality of life, climate. But I'm going to tell you from the perspective of an elected official, there's almost no better argument you can make at a time like this than will it create jobs and will it improve your balance sheet of your city? So this presentation really has only one point and a lot of supporting evidence for it. But the one point is that when you're an elected official in a time like this, and I was an elected official then, cutting spending, particularly in a time of need, or raising taxes doesn't sound so great. So anything that a city can do to create more revenue to support all of the programs of the city is just really critical. And anything you can do to make investments that reduce financial pressure on your constituents, the better too. So that's the message. So here's some ideas on how to integrate that integrated jobs message into a Walk Bike Places message. First of all, just from the needs side, what this chart shows is that as income goes up, people spend more on transportation. Those are the blue bars. But if you look at that orange or brown bar, it's almost 30% of a lower incomes person. They spend that on transportation. 30% of their household budget's on transportation. If you can reduce that, that's great. And the good news is you can by investing in walking, biking, and transit. But here's the rest of it. Smart Growth America has run the numbers. I recommend finding the report. You create more jobs with transit than highways. Here's another report. This was done by a research outfit, and I won't take you through this chart, but guess what? Building bike and pedestrian infrastructure creates more jobs than highways. This is not surprising, right? Highways, big projects require big machinery. These more granular projects require more people. So if you want to create jobs through infrastructure, transit, walking, and biking is great. Parklets, open streets. This is a report from San Francisco doing an economic impact report. This number you see here is from before the pandemic hit, which found that quarterly revenues grew by 29% for businesses that had a parklet. Other businesses only grew by 10% on average. Again, this is pre-pandemic. This is from EcoCounter. They count people on the street is what they do. And sponsors America Walks too. So I got to throw that in there. This just shows how many people are walking when you keep your open streets, as opposed to the top half of the chart, which shows how the number of people on the street goes down when you start to remove those open street interventions we had, which also proves that government can work fast in times of economic distress. Get rid of the restrictions on home businesses, folks. This is so many people are working from home now, but your local code probably has restrictions on the number of employees or what you could do out of your house. This is an example of a cider company that had to shut down their retail outlet. They opened in their garage. The neighbors complained. The city council responded, and she's now allowed to do that. That's on an open street in a residential neighborhood. It's not lost on me that this was a relatively well-off person, a more privileged person in our society who got this consideration, but we should be allowing this for any home entrepreneurs to try to create a little economic activity in a hard time. Backyard cottages, missing middle housing, apartment buildings. What we saw is that this is Sightline article. The numbers have just gone way up when you permit backyard cottages. So let's just think about this. That's the sales taxes. That's people getting jobs, swinging a hammer in your community. That's all your trades are getting to go to work. And you don't have to install any more infrastructure to take care of these people. You already have the streets and sewer lines and everything else. And not only do you get all the revenue from that, you have new taxpayers in your community to help share the load of what you're trying to accomplish. Here's another example, eliminating parking minimums. As a result of this is a minor example, but the owner of this apartment building built 3 new units on top of the parking spaces they had. Don't have to add any more parking spaces. And the building behind it got 6 new units in it. Again, no new infrastructure, all that construction, all those new taxpayers, and more people get to live in a walkable community, driving that demand. Oh, well, here we go. I think I'm gonna hit my 7-minute mark here. We packaged all this up in something we called the Seattle Jobs Plan, and we actually succeeded at a lot of these. We didn't manage to get corner stores in residential neighborhoods, but we reduced parking minimums. We got things through environmental review faster. We loosened restrictions on home businesses. And when I said to you earlier that jobs matter at this time, like I just went to my old Flickr, account and started pulling up. I probably have 20 more pictures of that Seattle Jobs Plan banner. It was what the people wanted. They wanted to see that the government was working, their local government was working to create more jobs. So that's the point of this, is frame your argument in this time about creating jobs for those that need it most, that are local jobs, and add in your public health, add in your climate, add in your other arguments. But I got to tell you, if you're an elected official trying to balance a budget, trying to take care of people in need, if you can explain why it's jobs and economic activity, that elected official is going to listen. Okay, thanks for listening to me. Appreciated this opportunity.